Lord Captain, the ogres cannot determine who the ship we approach belongs to, but the telemetry clearly reveals it's an Imperium vessel. The hull is badly damaged, but there is air in some of the chambers, which means they're hermetically sealed. What are your orders concerning the discovery? Send out the order to prepare my troops for boarding. I will personally take part in an exploratory expedition. Explore. Oh. Holy shit, we got this as exploration instead of a map. Region Cinereus Malefico. Location Agathis Archives. Material extract from unofficial news sheet window on the bridge. Disturbed on the middle decks. Recorded by unknown. The veracity of the recounted events is questionable. We who walk down the same passageways in the same bays day after day, who are born, live and die to the hum of the ship's machines, we forever hunger for the smallest glimpse of another life, and for a chance to see the heroes who tirelessly fight for us, and for the glory of the Imperium. So let's have a tale about the Lord Captain, by the will of the Emperor, the defender and commander of every good and honest soul upon the Voidship, and the time he boarded a vessel named the Fireborn. Like a dead whale cast ashore by the inexorable force of the swell, the wrecked vessel was confronting sight for its unwitting visitors. Some bays still retained an atmosphere, but there was no life anywhere. The ship was dead, its machine spirits dissipated in the darkness of space. It was just the husk left, and the rogue trader's crew were to become scavengers swarming the carcass of a fallen Leviathan. Our Lord Captain oversaw the expedition personally. He decided. Tech used to train the penetrating gaze of the ogre arrays on a damaged ship. The heavy Diratlas fill out a course. An unholy psyker she may be, but even souls as dark as hers submitted the Lord Captain's will. Use tech. It says 100% chance. The ogre's keen eyes scanned the eerie vessel, identifying that the Voidship was gravely damaged and was in the process of final erosion. There was very little time to explore it. 3 sectors seemed the least damaged: the bridge, the middle crew deck, and the service bay. After exchanging a series of trills and warbles in their mysterious and ancient language, the tech priests responsible for the ogres reported to the Lord Captain that they had glimpsed sign of valuable components in operation in the service bay. The Lord Captain next step was to have Diratlas fill out a course, to turn his attention to the scout units awaiting instructions. Diratlas. The ogre's keen eyes scanned the eerie vessel, identifying that the Voidship was gravely damaged and was in the process of the final erosion. Okay, that's all the same. After exchanging a series of trills and warbles in the mysterious and ancient language, tech priest with the hostile eyes upon her, Idira sank into a trance. When she resurfaced, she reported that the ship had been a victim of the warp. The bridge had suffered worst of all. It was the section that provoked the greatest anxiety and trepidation in the psyche. The service bay was the least damaged section, though Idira spoke of it with no particular interest. No bridge. No service bay. No bridge, no service bay. No bridge. No service bay. We're gonna explore the crew decks. The Lord Captain had to decide which of these 3 teams he would lead and which 2 would be entrusted to their officers. Let there be known the names of those honest people who stood before a rogue trader in that moment. The taciturn, grave young Ho Shon, whose word was as firm as his handshake. Captain Vesti, whose jokes will be remembered by everyone on deck 35. Captain Matina, the senior officer of the 3rd unit, known to many as Grey Matina. She had been leading units back when current crop of scouts were snot-nosed kids. No one on the deck was in any doubt that navigating inside the wrecked ship would be difficult. The units would be separated by kilometers of twisted metal. Dead modules devoid of atmosphere, collapsed passageways, and hull bridges the size of a house. The only thing connecting the brave teams would be a delicate thread of a wax link. And so, after weighing up the options, the Lord Captain chose to go with Captain Vesti and his unit, who were set to explore the crew decks. From here on, we will relate the events based on what we have learned from witnesses, the people who accompanied the Lord Captain on the tour of the Dread Ship. Shuttle started up one after another and dispersed, each heading for its selected target. An hour spent on cutting through the hull in the freezing vacuum of space, a fussy boarding, and then finally the rogue trader stepped onto a cold dark deck of a dead ship. The light of the torches revealed a sign in the gloom, Fireborn. After a minute-long exchange with a Voxmaster, who quickly checked the archives, it was established that the dead vessel was that of a Captain Nova Van Dyne, registered as Kiava Gamma Port. The repressible Captain Vesti offered up a brief prayer for a favorable outcome to the expedition, and will leave this place a little richer than when we arrived, for rich men are joyous men, and an honest man's joy makes heretics and chaos cultists weep. The Lord Captain praised the commander for maintaining morale and ventured deeper into the ship. The Lord Captain reprimanded the commander for his inappropriate flippancy, and they ventured deeper into the ship. Okay. Sounds crackled from the Vox speakers and a light of the casing switched on, signaling a message coming in on the first unit's frequency. Commander Young Ho Sean calmly reported that this unit was making satisfactory progress toward the ship bridge. After several hours spent exploring the ship, the Lord Captain unit came up against an obstacle. The middle deck's arsenal and storage depot were somewhere nearby, but this section of the ship had suffered serious damage. Fragments of cables were sparking everywhere, clearly still electrified. Moving any further could be very dangerous. The Lord Captain decided to ask Abelard, who was well versed in the layout of Imperial ships, to plot a possible route around the perilous section. Access the ship power grid and cut off the power to the sector. Figure out a safer route. Tech use always passes with Pascal, because he's crazy. Tech use check succeeds. The Lord Captain assessment was proved entirely justified. With difficulty but no adverse incidents, the unit crossed the dangerous section. Their visit to the storage depot was just as fortuitous. It was full of cargo. Captain Vesti's satisfied smile made it clear he believed this result was down to his prayer. Items we got: primitive tools, cyber crypta, mysterious xenotech, drinkable engine coolant, and 10 XP. The voice of a young Ho Shon reached the Lord Captain ears once again. The first unit captain soberly reported that his people were proceeding to the bridge. The ensuing deathly silence alerted the Lord Captain that something was wrong. Following the gazes of his team, he saw that the unit's dispatcher, who was carrying the large Voxcaster with an antenna and transmitter, was lagging far behind the rest of the group, and the transmission indicator was dark. There were no incoming messages. Even if there had been, Sean's voice couldn't have sounded so close, as if a dispatcher or Sean himself were standing right next to the rogue trader. "Sean here, Unit 1 proceeding to the bridge," said the voice again. Now it seemed to be coming from all sides, drawing in from the left and right, from under the deck, and even from somewhere among the mess of cables overhead. The Lord Captain summoned all his willpower to resist the illusion. The Lord Captain tried to build a dam against the fear, drawing upon logic and his knowledge of the monstrous apparitions of chaos. We go with warp again with Pascal. The Lord Captain managed not only to maintain his self-control, but also to keep the terrified unit from veering into outright panic. Led by the rogue trader, the scouts hurriedly retreated to the shuttle, pursued by their comrade's disembodied voice, which continued to repeat the same brief message. A message came in from the unit led by the seasoned, unflappable Grey Matina. The captain methodically reported on all the service-based sections her team had already examined. They found nothing of value. They have found no bodies, there have been no incidents, and the search was proceeding as normal. The unit was waiting for further instructions from the Lord Captain. Awareness. After distilling the salient points from Grey Matina's exhaustive report, Rogue Trader listed the areas that warranted a more thorough search. Or they go back to the shuttle. But this is gonna fail. Oh, succeeded. After returning to the shuttle, Rogue Trader received reports about Fireborn status. The tech priest who relentlessly pierced the wreckage with the ogre's gaze insisted on curtailing the operation as soon as possible, fearing imminent destruction. There were also reports from the other two units. Grey Matina unit had explored the service bay without incident, and not wasting any time, had marked valuable components for later disassembly and transfer to the Rogue Trader ship. Ogres and the Vox system proved equally useless. The first unit, which had been exploring the bridge, had vanished without a trace, almost as if the dead ship had swallowed them whole. The scouts and their commander, Yon Hoshon, had simply disappeared, joining the thousands of crew members lost aboard the Fireborn. One unit died on the bridge. The units assembled at the shuttles as the Lord Captain gave the final order of this grim expedition. Hold a service for the fallen scouts. Recite a memorial prayer to Omnissiah in honor of the ship, a fallen wonder of engineering. Fire upon the cursed ship from the long-range weapon batteries. Fire upon the cursed ship. After returning to the bridge of his ship, the Rogue Trader cast a final glance at the endless blackness and the shell of the Fireborn that lurked within it. In that moment, the ship's weapons batteries roared into life, lighting up darkness with a barrage of fire, and the said cursed vessel was soon turned into a brilliant mass of molten metal and plasma. For that which was born in fire should also perish in fire. It's gonna be an amazing game.